Every morning you open the curtains. Light spills in. You water the plants, maybe light some incense. You've done everything right, yet something still feels wrong. There's a heaviness. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that lingers quietly in the corners. You clean, you rearrange, you burn sage. But the air still feels tired, and so do you. Maybe it started with restless sleep. Then came the strange tension between family members, nothing big, just small frictions. Then the bad luck, missed opportunities, drained health, that slow sinking feeling that your life is stuck in a fog. You might think it's stress, or age, or just the season. But in ancient Feng Shui, there's a name for homes like this. Houses that reverse the flow, where energy moves against life instead of with it. These homes don't always look bad. In fact, many are bright, beautiful, even expensive. But deep inside their structure, something essential is off. The alignment, the opening, the breath of the house itself. And when a home forgets how to breathe, the people inside begin to forget how to live fully. So ask yourself, when I walk through my front door, does my heart feel safe or silently strained? Because some homes nurture, others quietly take. Number 1, when light enters but life doesn't. Have you ever stood in your living room on a sunny morning? The curtains are open, the floor is clean, and the light is pouring in. And yet something still doesn't feel right. You can't quite name it, there's no clutter. The air smells fresh. But your shoulders stay tense and your breath feels shallow. It's as if the house is bright but not alive. This is one of the quiet truths modern Feng Shui invites us to notice. A house can be filled with light and still feel energetically empty. Sometimes we think light is enough. We believe that if the sun is shining through the window, then the energy must be good. But just like with people, it's not just about what's visible. It's about how it's received, how it moves, and whether it's welcomed in the right way. You see, light is not decoration. It's a language, and your home is always listening. In a well-aligned home, sunlight doesn't just shine, it settles. It spreads gently across surfaces, touches the floor with softness, and lingers in the corners like a quiet smile. You feel it when you walk in. Your heart slows down. Your mind releases. There's no rush to do anything. You just feel at ease. But in homes where light rushes in too harsh or only brightens one side of the room or gets trapped in shiny surfaces, that energy becomes sharp, unsettled. It can make the space look beautiful but feel strangely tense. You might not notice it at first, but after weeks or months it starts to show up in your body. A restless sleep, a low mood you can't explain. Arguments that come from nowhere. The sense that your house is clean but your mind is cluttered. This kind of misalignment often begins with the flow of light, not too little but too uneven. Think of light like water. If it pools in only one place, the rest of the space dries out. If it flows too fast, it washes away energy instead of feeding it. If it reflects too sharply, it creates visual noise instead of calm. That's why in modern Feng Shui, we look at light not just in terms of is it bright, but where does it land? Does it move with the rhythm of the day? Does it let the house breathe? Or does it take up too much space too fast? Here's an example. Let's say your kitchen gets strong afternoon sun. At first glance, it feels great. It's sunny, cheerful. But that heat and glare can build up, especially if your counters are glossy or your windows face west. By evening, the space feels too hot, too sharp, and oddly exhausting. Or maybe your living room is bright only in the morning, but the light never reaches the far end. One corner stays dim no matter how many lamps you use. Over time, that shadow becomes a quiet emotional weight, a spot you unconsciously avoid. This isn't superstition. It's the lived experience of thousands of women who tell me, "I don't know why, but that corner just makes me feel low." That room is fine, but I never want to sit there. That's the language of light, speaking without words. So what can we do? Thankfully, we don't need to renovate. We just need to gently guide the light back into rhythm. Like helping a song find its melody again. Here are a few small ways that often make a big difference. Herbs soften harsh light. Use light linen curtains to diffuse strong sun. This turns the energy from harsh to healing, like a whisper instead of a shout. Redirect gently. Place mirrors in places where they can catch light and reflect it into dark corners, not back toward the door. This helps light move deeper into the home instead of bouncing around aimlessly. Sunrise balance both ends. If a room is long, make sure both sides receive some form of light, natural or soft, artificial. This gives the room a sense of emotional symmetry and eases internal pressure. Candle layer your light. Instead of relying on a single overhead light, use table lamps, floor lamps, and even warm-toned LED strips under shelves. This mimics the slow, soft transition of daylight into evening, calming your nervous system as you wind down. Seedling, let your plants be the guide. Notice where your plants thrive and where they struggle. Healthy growth means the light is nourishing. Wilting leaves mean it's either too harsh or not enough. What's beautiful about all of this is that it's not just about the house. It's about you. Because as you adjust the flow of light, you begin to adjust how you feel. You create a space where your body can finally relax, where your thoughts become quieter, where your mornings feel softer and your evenings more spacious. And in that stillness, something begins to return. Inspiration, peace. A feeling that home is not just a structure, but a presence, a gentle ally. So if you've been living in a place that looks right but feels wrong, start with the light, watch how it moves, touch the space it misses. And slowly, with each small change, invite your house to breathe again. Because when light enters with care, life begins to rise. Number 2, corners that collect more than dust. There's a corner in your home you always walk past, but never stop in. You've cleaned it. You've placed a plant there once, maybe a small chair, but somehow it always ends up being empty. It's not messy, it's not broken, but it never feels like a part of the room. This, in modern Feng Shui, is known as a silent corner, a space that holds stillness but not peace. It's where energy forgets to move. And slowly, so do we. Just like water in a stream, energy needs motion. It flows best where there's light, warmth, and gentle activity. But when it reaches a corner with no life, no presence, and no purpose, it begins to settle. Not in a good way. Think about it. That untouched corner near your entryway. The sharp angle in the bedroom where nothing ever seems to fit. The space behind a door that always stays slightly ajar, always hidden. These corners collect more than dust. They collect forgotten thoughts, neglected emotions, and over time they become storage closets for stuck energy. In Feng Shui terms, this is where qi becomes static. At first you won't feel it. But as time goes on, the effects ripple out. Sleep feels shallow, especially if your bed is near a dead corner. You avoid sitting in certain areas without knowing why. Small decisions become harder. A general feeling of something missing follows you around the house. This isn't magic, it's atmosphere. Your body senses subtle imbalances even when your eyes can't explain them. We call it feeling off. Feng Shui calls it blocked flow. But why do these corners matter so much? Because corners are the breathing points of your space. If the corners are dry, dark, or heavy, your whole home feels like it's sighing inward. Even in large rooms, one neglected corner can shift the energy of everything around it. Just like one tense person can change the mood of a gathering. And it's often women, especially older women, who feel it first. Not because we're sensitive, but because we're intuitive. We've been listening to quiet tension our whole lives. So how do you recognize one of these blocked corners? Here are a few signs. You feel slightly colder or heavier when you pass that space. The light never quite reaches it, even during the day. Plants placed there don't thrive or simply fade. Pets avoid it, children ignore it. You find yourself storing things there just for now, but they stay for years. And perhaps most telling, that corner rarely hosts a moment of life. No reading, no sitting, no laughter, just pause. Let's shift that. Because healing a stuck corner isn't about redecorating. It's about reawakening. Here's how. Herb 1, give it purpose, even a small one. Corners without intention become forgotten. Choose one small purpose, a place for a morning candle. A low plant stand, a tiny reading stool, nothing grand, just presence. When you give a corner attention, it gives energy back. Sun 2, let light touch it, even gently. Light is life. Even a soft floor lamp or hanging bulb can bring a dead corner back to breath. Avoid harsh overheads. Choose warm tones, diffused light, or natural candles. Let that corner glow, softly, not loudly. Wind chime 3. Add movement or sound. Stuck energy needs to move. Hang a delicate wind chime near the space, not for noise, but for presence. You can also use soft background music in the room, even for an hour each day. Let the air learn to move again. 4. Open its reflection. Place a small mirror adjacent to, not directly inside the corner, angled gently to catch movement or light. This doesn't open the space. It invites it to rejoin the room. Make sure it reflects something alive. Plants, soft art, or flow, not empty walls. Basket 5. Remove old storage energy. If the corner has become a temporary spot for things, it's time. Touch every object there. Ask, does this support my home's breath? Clear what no longer serves. Even just one basket moved can shift the energy. Cherry blossom 6. Bring nature. Corners love green. A fern, a trailing pothos, a small bouquet, something living. Something growing. Nature tells the space, you matter, I choose to place life here. That message echoes into every room. What happens next may surprise you. That room starts to feel different. You linger a little longer. You begin using the chair you once ignored. You rest better. Conversations flow more easily. Even meals taste warmer. Because when a corner breathes again, the home's rhythm returns. And your nervous system, always listening, begins to trust the space again. This is the quiet magic of modern Feng Shui. It doesn't require belief, just attention. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And its greatest changes often begin in the smallest, most overlooked places. So today, take 5 minutes. Stand in the corner you forgot. Place your hand on the wall, feel the quiet. Then do something small but intentional. Because homes, like hearts, don't need fixing. They just need to be felt. Number 3, rooms that feel cold even in summer. You step into the room and your skin flinches. Not because of the air conditioning, not because it's shady, but because the space feels cold in a way that isn't about temperature. You know the feeling, it's summer outside. The rest of the house is warm and alive. But this one room, the guest bedroom, the small office, maybe even your own bedroom, always feels a little distant, as if something got left out, or someone forgot to come back for it. In modern Feng Shui, this sensation has a name: spaces that have lost their breath. They're not haunted, they're not bad, they're just misaligned. The flow of air, light, and emotional energy has stopped, and the room is slowly going quiet. The first sign is often physical. You avoid spending time there without realizing it. You sit for a few minutes, then find a reason to leave. You sleep but don't rest, or you wake up feeling like something in you is dimmer than it was the night before. You might open the window, you might bring in more furniture, but the feeling stays, cool, quiet, and not quite connected. These cold rooms are usually places where natural flow has been interrupted. Think of how a stream runs through a forest. When nothing blocks it, the water flows smoothly, refreshing, balanced, full of life. But if something redirects that current, like a fallen tree or a steep slope, the water becomes too fast, too shallow, or disappears altogether. Your home works the same way, when the wind pushes too directly through one room, when sunlight never lingers long enough, when furniture blocks the breath of a space. That room falls out of rhythm, and your body, always listening, responds with quiet disconnection. In traditional teachings, this kind of imbalance was called the broken lung of a house. One room forgets how to inhale and exhale, and the rest of the home must work harder to stay balanced. Women, especially older women, often describe it in beautiful, intuitive language. It feels like no one lives here, even when I'm sitting inside. Or, there's nothing wrong, but the room feels like it's missing something. They're right. It's not the design, it's the energy memory. These rooms often carry one or more of the following: a door that opens directly to a hallway, creating a wind tunnel; a bed placed between two windows or across from a mirror; a ceiling fan that spins constantly but never cools your mood; a lack of warmth in light, in texture, in sound. But more than that, they carry a history of not being fully used. Maybe someone used to live there and moved out. Maybe it was always a spare space, functional but not loved. Maybe you only use it for guests or storage or nothing at all. And in Feng Shui, what we use lightly becomes light. What we neglect becomes cold. So how do we help a room breathe again? How do we return warmth, not just temperature, but presence? Here's how: not with big changes, but with subtle, sensory ones. Wind change the way air moves. Don't rely only on open windows or fans. Instead, place a light curtain or soft fabric in the doorway to catch wind and slow it down. Air that flows too quickly pulls energy out. What you want is movement that lingers. Sun, reintroduce morning light. Even if the room doesn't get direct sunlight, you can reflect morning light into it using mirrors angled gently from nearby spaces. Hang warm-toned art on the wall that faces east, so the idea of sunrise becomes part of the space's memory. Add something of weight and something soft. Cold rooms often feel disconnected because they lack contrast. They're either too sparse or too stiff. Try this: a wooden chair with a soft pillow, a basket with warm-toned blankets, a thick book placed intentionally, not forgotten. Let the space hold something real, something with weight and intention. Candle, create a ritual of presence. Use the room not just functionally but soulfully. Once a week, light a candle in that room. Sit. Breathe. Even if only for 5 minutes, don't meditate, don't fix, just be there. This teaches the space and your body that it matters again. Musical note, let the room hear you. Sound is one of the most powerful Feng Shui tools. Soft music in the background. A bell rung gently once a day, even a whispered affirmation. These sounds tell the walls, you are not forgotten. And slowly the space responds. You may notice that as the room warms again, emotionally, not just physically, you begin to use it more, not out of duty, out of comfort. It becomes the place you journal, or drink tea, or sit in silence when the world outside feels too loud. And the cold begins to leave, not just the room, but parts of you too. Because here's the truth modern Feng Shui holds gently. Our homes are not just where we live. They are mirrors of how we move through the seasons of life. And sometimes a cold room is not a failure. It's a pause, an invitation to return. To place your hand on the wall and say, "I'm here now, let's begin again." Number 4, the invisible noise in open spaces. The room is silent, but your heart is buzzing. You sit down with a cup of tea. The windows are open. The curtains sway gently. There's no music, no voices, no clutter. And yet something in the room feels louder than it should. It's not sound in the usual sense. It's space, too much of it uncontained. This is what modern Feng Shui understands as invisible noise. The kind of overstimulation that isn't heard but felt. The kind that creeps in from smooth floors, bare walls, and glass that reflects more than it lets in. Have you ever noticed how quickly you walk through a large hallway? Or how you tend to talk louder in a room with echo? Or how your eyes scan an open living room but never settle anywhere? These are all signs of a space that doesn't know where to land. A home that looks perfect but doesn't feel anchored. The heart of the issue is not architecture, it's rhythm. A space without rhythm cannot hold emotion. There's nothing wrong with open space. We crave it, we design for it. But when openness has no invitation to stay, no place for the breath to pause, no soft edge to hold thought, it starts to dissolve us. You sit down, but your mind keeps wandering. You try to rest, but feel a strange pressure to move. You hear nothing, but feel the urge to turn on the TV, not for entertainment, but to replace a silence that feels empty instead of peaceful. This is not the silence of peace. This is the silence of disconnection. In Feng Shui, this kind of energy imbalance often occurs in rooms placed between two large doors or windows, spaces with high ceilings and hard materials, entryways that pour directly into the living area, homes with too many straight lines and too few pauses. When there are no natural boundaries, Qi, life force, has nowhere to rest. It moves too quickly. It slips away before it can root, and the body responds, not in dramatic ways, but in subtle, deeply familiar ones, a restlessness you can't name. A feeling that home is beautiful but distant. A slow fading of creativity, focus, or ease. Most women won't describe it as bad Feng Shui. They'll say things like, "I just can't relax in that room. It's too bright during the day, too exposed at night. I don't know why, but I avoid that space without realizing." They're not wronged. They're describing a space with no emotional walls. A room that doesn't embrace, only echoes. Imagine walking through a forest with no undergrowth, just tall, bare trees and endless openness. At first, it's stunning. But after a while, you begin to feel watched, alone, as if the earth beneath you had forgotten how to cradle. Open spaces in the home can feel the same, without warmth, without texture, without rhythm. They become too awake, not alert in a good way, but constantly scanning, constantly reflecting. They give no invitation to rest. And still, they are not broken. They're just asking for something deeper than decoration, something more human than design. They are asking for relationship. You don't need to fill the room. You don't need to fix or rearrange or bring in more furniture. What the space is asking is simpler than that. It's asking, will you meet me? Will you sit here without the need to use me? Will you let the silence be just silence, not something to fix, but something to feel? Because the room is only noisy when we resist its stillness, only overwhelming when we expect it to comfort us without our presence. Try this, sit in that open room. Don't bring your phone, don't tidy, don't plan, just breathe. Let your body find its weight. Let your gaze fall gently, not on a screen, not on a task, but somewhere soft. A window, a beam of light, a flower on the table, you'll notice it. At first, a tension, then a release. And then the space begins to feel less open and more alive, because you've given it what it lacked all along, attention without expectation. There's a kind of peace that doesn't come from silence alone. It comes from silence that holds you. And the most powerful transformation a home can make is not from full to empty, but from distant to intimate. So if a room in your home feels strangely loud, not in sound, but in emotion, don't leave, don't fill it. Just meet it, let it meet you back, because in that quiet encounter, your house becomes whole again. Number 5, the house that never feels full. There's food on the table, there's laughter sometimes. There are books, photos, flowers, but still the house feels empty. Not in things, but in presence. You walk through the living room and it echoes, not with sound, but with something else. A quiet sense that something essential never really landed. It's not sadness exactly, but it's not warmth either. This is the feeling of a house that never quite feels full. Not because of what's missing, but because of what's not flowing. In modern Feng Shui, fullness doesn't mean busy. It doesn't mean rooms packed with decor or activities. It means energetic presence, life that's truly lived in. But many modern homes, even beautiful ones, fall into a subtle trap. They become places where people spend time. But don't root. A family might eat together but scatter as soon as the meal ends. A couple might sleep in the same bed but feel distant when they wake up. Children might do homework in silence but never play out loud. The home holds their lives, but not their presence. It often starts with the center of the home. Traditionally, this was the hearth, the fire, the floor, the table where everyone returned. In today's world, that center has become harder to find. Open concept homes, separate routines, screen time in every room. It's easy to live near each other without ever truly connecting. So the house becomes functional but not full. It becomes a station, a rest stop, not a source of renewal. You may feel it in small moments, a deep breath that never fully settles, a weekend that passes without a shared conversation, a dining room that stays tidy but rarely touched, a living room that looks beautiful in photos but never hosts real pause. Even when people are home, it can feel like everyone is still somewhere else. And that's when the house begins to lose its warmth, not physically, emotionally. In Feng Shui, this is called missing heart energy. It's when the layout, the rhythm, and the daily rituals of a space don't allow energy to gather and breathe together. It's not about perfection, it's about intention. Where do we meet? Where do we laugh without checking the time? Where do we pause not just alone, but in gentle company? When a house lacks these answers, even the most elegant design feels cold. This doesn't mean the family is broken. It means the house is asking for something more intimate than structure, a space to return, a rhythm of togetherness, a ritual that doesn't need to be spoken. Because presence doesn't require conversation, it requires landing. And in homes that never feel full, presence is always passing through, never settling. So how do we notice it? Not by measuring noise or counting chairs, but by feeling. When was the last time this room held more than bodies, but breath and emotion and togetherness? It might be the kitchen that functions but never inspires, the living room that holds a TV but not laughter, the center of the home that is clean but strangely silent, and the most common, a family table that is perfectly set and quietly unused. But here's the quiet gift. A house doesn't need a renovation to feel full. It needs a return to moments that ask nothing, a return to shared space, not for productivity, but for presence, a return to eye contact, to meal time, to the scent of real food shared without rush. Because when we return to each other, The house returns to itself. There's a reason ancient homes always had a central fire, a communal mat, a round table. Not for aesthetics, for gravity, we gather around what grounds us. We belong to what welcomes us. And a home without this gathering point, physical or emotional, becomes slowly hollow, even when filled with people. So if your house feels strangely empty, not in decoration, but in emotion, step gently toward the center, not to redesign, but to listen. What does your home miss most? Not objects, but moments. Moments of real eye contact, of shared stillness, of laughter that echoes into the walls, not loud, not frequent, just enough to say, we are here together. Because a home that feels full isn't full of stuff, it's full of returning. To one another, to the breath, to the quiet center that holds more than furniture, it holds memory. And the beautiful part is, it only takes one person to begin. Just one pause, one light left on for company, one chair pulled close, one hand resting gently on the table after dinner, staying, not rushing. These small acts ripple, and the home, once empty and feeling, begins to fill again. Not suddenly, not loudly, but deeply, gently, lastingly. Number 6, where pets and plants don't thrive. There's a small plant on your windowsill. You water it. You move it closer to the light. But still, the leaves curl yellow and fall. You try again with another, a peace lily, a fern, a jade. Each one starts strong, then fades. Somewhere nearby, your cat avoids a certain corner. Your dog barks at an empty hallway, then backs away. And you find yourself wondering, is it the light, the soil, their mood, or something else entirely? In modern Feng Shui, these are not random. They are whispers. Living things sense what we forget to feel, and when plants wilt or pets retreat, they're telling us a quiet truth about the home. The energy here isn't nourishing us. This isn't superstition. It's nature. In traditional wisdom, both animals and plants are seen as sensitive bridges, able to read the subtle patterns of energy long before humans notice them. Not because they're magical. Because they're honest. They don't negotiate with logic. They simply respond to the rhythm around them. And when that rhythm is off, too stagnant, too aggressive, too imbalanced, they either withdraw or decline. You may recognize these signs. A cat that sleeps only in one corner and avoids others. A dog that seems anxious, alert, restless, even in a calm room. A bird that stops singing. A plant that thrives in other homes, but never in yours. Leaves that drop suddenly, without reason. New growth that never appears, despite care. At first we blame the light, the water, the breed, the air. But when the pattern repeats itself, the home is speaking. Not in words, but in life. Let's pause here. Your home in Feng Shui is not a container. It's a living field, a body of its own, with currents, breaths, moods. And everything within it, from you to your pets to your spider plant, responds to that field. Some spaces feel nourishing the moment you walk in. Others feel beautiful but somehow empty. Still others seem fine, until you realize that no living thing ever settles there for long. That's the difference between space that is habitable and space that is alive. And here's the truth, no home is always perfect. But some homes have forgotten how to breathe. This forgetting can happen in small ways. A cluttered hallway blocking the main flow of air. A mirror placed where it bounces energy too sharply. A lack of movement, no sound, no shifting light. Artificial sense masking stillness instead of clearing it. Or even unresolved tension that lingers in the emotional walls. Over time, these small disruptions create energy fatigue. And just like people, pets and plants respond with withdrawal, stress, or decline. But what's beautiful, what's so gently powerful, is how quickly life returns when energy is invited back. Not forced, not rushed, just gently, quietly, lovingly reawakened. It can begin with something as simple as noticing. Where does your cat nap most often? Which corner does your dog refuse to enter? Where do your plants grow with ease, and where do they strain? These are not mysteries, they are maps. Maps of vitality, maps of resistance, maps that help us see what our eyes and habits no longer catch. Sometimes all it takes is moving a chair, or changing the direction of a plant, or opening the window for breath, not for breeze. Other times it's about returning warmth to a room that's become too cold in spirit, lighting a candle, playing music softly in the background, sitting with your pet, not to train but simply to be. These are not rituals, they are relationships between you and the space, between your home and the life it holds. There's a quiet power in recognizing that we don't live alone. Even in solitude, you are accompanied by the silent growth of a fiddle leaf fig, by the gentle presence of a dog curled near your feet, by the simple rhythm of watering, tending, touching, and each of these actions becomes an offering, a message that says, I choose to be present here, I choose to care. And when that message is repeated often enough, the home responds. Plants begin to hold their leaves, pets begin to rest more deeply, the air begins to soften. You begin to breathe more easily, even without noticing. Because in the end, a home where life thrives is not a lucky home. It's a loved one, loved not through design, but through attention, through the quiet acts that no one sees, but that every living thing can feel. So if your home has felt still lately, too still, watch the ones who feel first. Watch the corners where growth refuses to happen. Watch the spaces your cat avoids, your dog circles, your plants sigh. And then place your hand gently in that space. Breathe there. Let your presence be the first seed, not to fix, but to reconnect. Because when your home begins to breathe again, everything living inside it, including you, begins to grow again too. Final, sometimes a home doesn't shout, it whispers. It whispers through a plant that won't bloom, through a hallway no one walks down anymore, through the way your footsteps echo slightly differently this week than they did last. It's not always the wrong furniture, not always bad luck. Sometimes it's simply that the house has been holding your tiredness quietly for too long, and like any living thing, it gets tired too. But homes are generous. They remember what you forget. They forgive the noise, the absence, the clutter, the rush. They wait. And then one day, when you finally sit on the edge of the bed, not to scroll, not to plan, but simply to breathe, the house exhales too. And something changes, not in color, not in layout, but in weight, in warmth. It's as if the walls soften. The floor rises just enough to meet your steps. The air feels less still, not louder, just listening. That's when you know. The house has remembered you again. Maybe all it ever needed was for you to remember it too. Not as a project, not as a possession, but as a companion in the quiet work of living. So before you move on to the next thing, the next task, the next video, the next decision, pause, let the light fall across your hand. Feel the chair under your body. Notice how the room holds your presence even now. Then ask yourself gently, have I truly arrived in the place I live?